holidays known also as the holidays of Shlosha Regalim, the three major festivals that we are to come and visit the temple. What is the last of the list of the holidays? Is obviously if you start the year at Nisan, Pesach. So what's the last of the holiday? No, if you start the year of Nisan.
Oh, on Nissan, then it would be
Sukkot.
Sukkot.
Sukkot is the
Shmini
last.
Atzeret.
Oh, Shmini Atzeret.
Yes.
So the last holiday is a very interesting holiday, and that's what I would like to discuss tonight. The holiday is mentioned on verse 36. Pasuk Lamed Vav, on chapter 23, while we are in the holiday of Sukkot, so it says, Shivas Yomim, for 7 days, Takrivu Ishel Hashem. You should offer an offering to God. Bayom Hashmini, on the 8th, after the 7th day period, comes an 8th day. But this is his own day, Bayom Hashmini, Avram Abramov's birthday, right? What does it say? Mikra Kodesh Yelachem. It should be a holy convocation to you. Veikraftem Ishel Hashem. And you should offer a burnt offering to God. Atzeret I. This is a day of Atzeret. What does Atzeret mean? In Israel, when you see the red sign on the road with a palm up, instead of saying stop, S-T-O-P, it says Ayin Tzadik Vav Reish, Atzor. And Atzor means stop. Not that not anybody follows it, but it says usually, right? So it says the sign Atzor, which means stop. Says the Torah regarding the 8th day, Atzereti, this is a day you shall stop. Stop of what? We will see in a moment. Kol melechet avoda lo ta'asu. No work of labor shall you do. Meaning it's a holiday. If Atzeret would mean just stop of work, then the Torah should have just say, Kol melechet avoda lo ta'asu. Do not perform any work of labor. Why does the Torah specifically mention to stay with me? What does it mean? I had stopped you to stay with me. I had stopped you from going home, and I wanted you to stay with me. Says Rashi from the Medrash Tanchuma. The Medrash compares it Kemelech as a king who invited his children to spend with them a banquet for a certain amount of days. This was like a mishter, like a feast, to come and celebrate not only a dinner, not only a meal, but a extended time of family together with his children. Says the Medrash, once the day came that they all have to take leave to go home, says the king to his children, Bevakasha minchem. I beg by you, please, ikvu imi od yom echad. Stay with me one more day. Koshe olai pridaschem. This is the important words. It is hard for me, the separation. I can't see you go. So I want to one more day to be.
Labor or laborious work.
Labor usually means creative work, not carrying a table from this side of the room of the other side of the room, but it means work that you create something, you form, you build, you construct, you write, you raise, you plow, you slaughter, anything which you create change.
But so I can do that in my head or write it on a piece of paper.
What is that?
I can create a poem, I can create.
In
a
where?
story.
In your head?
Yes, and
Yes,
write it down.
not a problem. But if you know, the moment you write it, you created something which didn't exist before. Right? It wasn't written. Now you wrote it down. Mainly, it is all derived from what was considered work in the tabernacle. This is the sages counted it down to 39 principles. They are called the 39 principles of work. And the categories, and then there's obviously subcategories and so on. Exactly. So what are we learning here about this very unique holiday? You are coming to the temple. We used to come there on Pesach. We used to come there on Shavuos. We used to come there on Sukkot, called Aliyah L'Regel, pilgrimage. Comes the end of Sukkot, God says, "Oi, I have separation anxiety. It's hard for me. I can't see you leave." Kashe, that's the word of the Medrash. Rashi brings it. Kashe means it's hard. Alai means on me. Pridatchem, your separation. Can't take it. You were together, a holiday of Sukkot, maybe some of them even came before, on Yom Kippur. And I want you to make me a holiday which it should make it easier, it should make it lighter to say goodbye. And the obvious question is, how is one more day together going to make it any easier? You have a problem. Exactly. If yes, it's going to make it harder. Imagine I go visit my parents, okay, with my kids, spending a nice week together, and now it's time to go home. And my mother feels, missing us. I feel missing here. So what's the solution? Let's stay one more day. Let's push off the ticket. And then what? You're not going to feel anxiety. You're not going to feel separation, emotions, feelings, just because I was there one more day. One more day doesn't help. Somehow the Medrash understood, and Rashi quotes it, that we have a holiday. We celebrate this holiday till today, called Shmini Atzeret. Matter of fact, in the diaspora, it is 2 days. One day we call Shmini Atzeret, the second day we call Simchas Torah, which is basically the second day of Shmini Atzeret. Just to what? To calm things down. How are things going to become calmer? By that day. The Rebbe a few times pointed out something very interesting in the wording of the Medrash. That's why I wanted you to listen to the word, what it says, Kashe alai, it is difficult for me, pridatchem, your separation. So the Rebbe says, is it your separation or our separation? What's the difficulty? Seemingly, the challenge is that we are saying goodbye to the temple. We spent 7 days together with God, and God spent 7 days together with us. And now we are taking leave, right? We're saying goodbye. So God says, it is hard for me that you are separating from me. Then the Hebrew proper word would say, Kashe alai, it is hard for me, pridatchem, your pridatenu, our separation. Not kashe alai pridatchem, your separation. Our separation. We are getting separated. So why is that the Medrash describes God's statement as the separation is what is with among you? So the Rebbe pointed out many times through the years that this is exactly what God is bothered by. He knows, and it's very clear that between us, God and his people, there is no separation. And for sure, there is no separation anxiety because God is always with everyone. He never leaves us. As the verse says, Vehine Hashem Nitzav Olav, like by Jacob it says, and behold, God is standing upon him and watching him. God is watching everywhere,
He's closer to
everywhere.
us.
So it was a little closer, less closer, but that's not separation. Separation means that we are departing, kind of parting each other. But the Rebbe says this is exactly what God says. Kasher alai, you know what is hard for me? Pridatchem, the fact that you are going to be separated. What does it mean? And what is that suddenly after Sukkot, there is a concern of separation? So the simple is that while we were in the temple, we were united in the presence of God. Matter of fact, especially when it comes to Sukkot, so the famous medrash that everybody you ate in Farkash or Elishevitz or in any other Jewish home on Sukkot, you heard it probably throughout your life more than 100 times, that the story of this week's Parsha about the four species is the medrash comparing to four types of Jewish people. Every one of my children said it at some Sukkot, but between kindergarten and going to yeshiva, to the point that they always have to tell them, that medrash we know already. Tell us something new you learn. What is the medrash telling us on this week's parsha? The medrash says that the four species, which is written in the parsha, the lulav, the etrog, the hadass, and arova, represents four types of people. Because each one of the species has a quality which the other one does not have. But the way the Torah describes the mitzvah of lulav is kapot tmarim. It should be from a date tree. When it comes to etrog, it says hadar, pre-8 hadar, the fruit of a beautiful tree which represents the etrog. And the etrog has both a good taste and a good smell. The date has a good taste but no smell. Then comes the mortals, the hadas. The Torah calls it anaf eight avod. And this has a good smell but has no taste. And then finally comes the arava, which is no taste and no smell. And the Medrash writes very clearly in this week's Parsha, Parshas Emor, the Medrash says that the four species represent four types of people. Taste, says the Medrash, represents knowledge. Because knowledge is tasty. You know something, you understand, then you feel taste in it. If you don't understand, it's tasteless. Huh?
You're hungry for it.
Some people are hungry for knowledge. That's right. That's why taste is associated with fruit. Smell, aroma, is represents a good deed. And the reason why aroma is a good deed, reach, the Medrash explains that when you do a good deed, you're creating an atmosphere. You bring a good smell around you into the world. It's not necessarily tasty, but it's a good aroma. So the famous story in the Zohar that somebody came back and met Rab Shimon Bar Yochai, and he looked at them and he says, "Oh, you're coming back from the mitzvah of releasing captives." How do I know? He says, "From the smell of your coat, I can see that you are coming back from the mitzvah of releasing captives." So a person creates a mitzvah. When you do a mitzvah, you create an atmosphere around you.
Without smell, you don't have taste, so it goes hand.
What?
Without smell, you don't have taste.
But sometimes there is people who are different. When it comes to the metaphor of fruit and smell, you can have a lulav Jew, which is both studying Torah and performing mitzvot. You have who only learns Torah but does not perform mitzvot. You have the etrog Jew, which is smell and taste. The Jew does both, learns, studies, understands, and practices. Then you have the Hadash, which doesn't have fruit, but doesn't have a smell, so you can be involved in good deed, but you don't come to learn. And then you have the unfortunate willow, which is no taste and no smell, no Torah study, and no mitzvahs. And the mitzvah of lulav is to tie them all in one bundle. And that's how each contributes its part. We're going to discuss soon what exactly is the contribution of the Arava. But the idea is that when we're coming off Sukkot, what was mainly played out in the temple on the holiday of Sukkot? Unity. Unity. It was the unity in the presence of God that we all visited the temple, and the whole idea was to be seen by God and see Him, and it obviously brought about a tremendous spirit of unity. But even more than that, what also is due to the holiday of Sukkot, the very fact that we are taking the lulav and the four species in our hand is a celebration of unity. So we were united, but this is all good and fine when we are in the experience of unity. When there is a temple, when there is lulav, when there is esrog, and now we are going home. Sukkot came to an end. So what does Hashem say? I need you to keep that unity together. I'm concerned that you are going to be sick. And by celebrating the day, somehow we're going to be able to, what's going to happen that extra day? So Hasidus says something very original and very special and very practical. What was offered on the day of Shmini Atzeret?
Nothing.
No, they had an offering,
Look what they have to do.
but there was a single bull and a single ram. Par echad, ayil echad. By Sukkot, every day there was many bulls, different numbers depending on the day. Altogether, there was 70. 70. There's bulls. Shmini Atzeret, the Torah says, V'graftem par echad, ayil echad. One bull, one single ram. What's the idea behind it?
We're all together, we're all one.
Oh, what's the message? Explains in Chassidus and the Kabbalah that the Shmini Atzeret is not just, like we said earlier, technically, stay one more day, and somehow there is some magic that the one day will create that somehow will let you be less separated. There is a magic. You know what the magic is? The day of Sukkot, there is Shmini Atzeret, there is no lulav, and there's no etrog, and there is no presentation of this type and that type, and a etrog type and a lulav type. There is no types. There is no four species. Even in the offering of the animals, there's just a single one, because this is the day that we are looking in. Listen to that. We are looking in to the real nucleus core in essence, which unites us all as one of being children of the same God, the same Father. So what happens on Shmini Atzeres, and how does it work, and how does Shmini Atzeres have the ability to impact our unity once we leave the temple? It shouldn't be pridatchem, you shouldn't be separated from each other, is the very fact that we are on Shmini Atzeres focusing on all different aspects of unity. We are not talking about the unity of different species, but uniting. I recognize your strength, you recognize my strength. We have to be nice to the one who has nothing strength, and together we can build a community. That's very nice. But that can be lost once we are in each one in his own neighborhood, in his own home. You're traveling off, you're getting away from the others, and then you go off and say, okay, we are not the same anymore. comes God and he says, don't leave. I want you to stay one day, just you and me, and that day we are only going to do one type of exercise. And this is one. We're not going to talk about our Torah. We're not going to talk about our mitzvahs. We're not going to talk about our accomplishment. We dance, we celebrate. Like Rashi actually says in Parshas Pinchas, when Rashi says Parshas Pinchas, he talks Shmini Atzeres, Rashi uses a different type of medrash, which actually uses the expression that after joining with a lot of people, God says to his daughter or to his son, let's roll just me and you. That's the expression of Rashi. Boy negalgel ani ve'oto. Let's just roll around me and you. Let's everybody else go home, and now it's our private time. This is Shmini Atzeres. So Shmini Atzeres is when we get into what Alter Rebbe speaks in chapter 32 in Tanya, the idea of Echad Lekulano. We have one Father. We are rooted into the same source. Not every day can we talk about these things. Some days we are coming with the lulav in the asterisk. But some days we are coming necessarily and specifically with nothing other than what makes the people is our nuclear alive, and that's what Shmini says. Rabbi actually pointed out something very special about the Arava. This is actually very unique, just to do with the Parsha. If you look in the Parsha, where it talks about the 4 species, so every one of the species has an identifying sign. How do you recognize that species to be of? What does it say? The first one, you should take for yourself on the first day, Pri Etz Hadar, a fruit of a beautiful tree. So can an etrog be a vegetable?
No.
No. Why?
Grows on a tree.
Because it says Pri. Can a etrog be a mushroom?
No.
Why? Because it's got on a tree. Etz. Can an etrog be dry? Dry, an old dry etrog? No. Why? Because it says Hadar. Hadar means a beautiful, alive, energized. So clearly, the terms and the symbols which Torah identifies the etrog, is that what we use in our personal etrog, right? When you buy an etrog, you're going to look for it to be fruit, et, citrus fruit from a tree, hadar, which is beautiful, not dry, healthy. Comes to the second species. What does the Torah describe it as? Kapot tmarim, palms of dates. What does kapot mean? Says the Talmud, kapot doesn't just mean palms, kapot means tied together. You have sometimes the palm tree, with time, it spreads out, it becomes like palms, right? And that's not kosher for lulav. What makes a lulav kosher is when the fronds or the fronds or the leaves of the lulav are tied together with the spine of it, not separated from the spine, but joining the spine. That's what the halacha calls kapot, kafut. Kafut means in Hebrew, tied up, right? Unified. And it has to be tmarim. Tmarim means date. It has to be a tree which grows date. according to many authorities, you have to actually have physical dates, edible dates growing on the tree that you take a lulav from. There was a big discussion more than 100 years ago. They brought in a lulav called the Canary lulav. Canara is some island in Spain, Canarian Islands.
Islands off of Spain.
It's off Spain, and they brought lulavim from palm trees which grew in that Canarian Islands. Canary Island. They were near Morocco from some side, or whatever it was from Spain. Jewish communities somehow were getting that lulav, and there was a big discussion, and there was a whole book written on it. I have the book at home called The Canarian Lulav, which different rabbis and sages shared their opinion whether it's kosher. There was a few issues with that, but one of the big issues is that there is no edible fruit growing in the Canarian palms trees. And since there's no edible fruit, and the fact that the Torah says kapot tamarim, so you need to actually have dates growing in it. That's what the famous sage, the Rabbi of Dvinsk, the Ragachover, he was one of the greatest giants, passed away in the 1930s. He was very strong that you can't use it. There were others who disagreed. But what's the idea? The idea is if that's what the identifying sign of the Torah, that means that that's what the Torah wants you to use. Similarly, when it comes to the willows, how does the Torah describe the willows?
Goes by the brook.
No, not willows. I'm sorry. The myrtles. What does it say on myrtles? Anaf, a twig, eitz, avot. How do you translate in English? What does it say in your Chumash? What does it say? Take a look at the verse.
Eyes.
Well, a branch of
Eyes.
not ideal. On page 688, verse 40.
Twigs of a plaited tree.
Oh, twigs of a plaited tree. So the word avot is actually translated a myrtle branches, and they are called plaited because three leaves grow closely together like braids from each part of the branch. Just like braids, right? So too, says the Torah that you, in order to identify a kosher willow, you have to see that they grow out from one stem. Each stem comes out of three little leaves. And that's what it's called, avot. That's called twigs of plaited. That's what a plaited tree means. And that's what we're looking for.
Will also mean avot as three fathers.
No, the iron.
It's iron.
Avot means thick or kind of, loaded. Then comes the fourth one, Arvei Nachal. What's Arvei Nachal? Willows growing by the brook. And here comes something very interesting. The Rambam, the Shulchan Aruch, the Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch. You know what they all say? That you don't need you have to pick up, don't worry. They say you don't need the willow to grow by the brook. You can have it in your backyard. As long, listen to that, as long as this type of willows are usually growing by the brook. Meaning, according to halacha, the individual willow that you are using in your lulav does not need to come from the brook, does not need to come from a river of water. But you have to have this type of willows, which usually, generally, the majority of them grow by water. And the big question that everybody is wondering, why? Manishtana. Why, when it comes to the three major species, lulav, etrog, and hadas? So your personal use has to be the one which is with those special qualities described by the Torah. And it comes to our Rava, suddenly we tell you, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
Don't be machmir with that.
No, we're not
Make it
machmir.
easy.
No, we're not machmir. They have nothing. And the answer is they are meant to have nothing. Because the Arava represents the Yid, the Jew who has no Torah and no good deeds, so therefore we are not looking even for his identifying signs which the Torah describes. It's like as if we say, what makes the Jew who has no Torah and no good deeds, what makes him special? What would you say? Because it belongs to the Jewish people. He's a descendant of Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. If that's what makes him unique, even he does not have any so-called revealed qualities. So when it comes to the Arava, again, we are not looking for revealed qualities. As long as he's an offspring of the type of Arava, the type of family, which usually grows by water, that's enough for me. This is as far we take the concept of unity when it comes to the four species. We don't look for any revealed advantages or qualifications. We take it, as they say in English, take as is. That's what the Arava is. So now that we are walking away with such a awesome type of unity, God is scared. I don't want you to lose it. I don't want you to lose it. You're not going to meet up, you're not bundled up together with others, you're going to not pay attention to the Arava. The Arava is not going to pay attention to the Etrog. Everybody's in his own merry way of life. And where's the unity? God expects us to be one and united. Therefore comes which holiday? Shmini Atzeret. Shmini Atzeret, what does Rashi say? Kashe alai pridatchem. It's difficult for me to see you separated, and I want you to spend one day. And what's going to happen on that day? Not magic. That day we are going to realize there is something deeper and stronger than any type of revealed advantages. And that's what unites us together. So even if you're far away, you're going to remember that you belong and that everybody belongs. You're not going to be, God forbid, separated from another Jew. Oh, that takes us to an interesting Gemara. This is going to give us into a very interesting discussion in the Gemara. The Gemara is in Brachas, in the 5th chapter of Brachas. Says the Gemara, a following halacha. First, the Gemara talks about davening, how you approach davening. Don't come to daven from a conversation. Don't come to davening from laughter. Approach davening with seriousness. But then the Gemara also says, oh, look, the Gemara, V'chein Toni Mori Bar Breder Avune Breder Barab. Mori, there was Abba. So you have, if you want to know how many generations, we have Abba, who had a son Abba, like his grandfather was called Abba. You have Abba, he had a son Yirmiyah. Yirmiyah had a son Rav Huna. Rav Huna had a son, doesn't say his name, who had a son Mori. So this is 5. The Gemara mentions the sage by counting down 5 generations of the guy Rav Mori. What did Rav Ela mitoch dvar halacha? I'm translating. A person should not take leave of his friend except amid discussion of a matter of halacha. You living? I'm not going to see you for a few weeks. Let me tell you halacha. I'm not going to tell you that we're going to have soon a debate between Trump and Biden. That's not the way we're going to say goodbye to you. And I'm not going to tell you what's going on in Uganda or who knows what. And the stock market is going to do like this, like that. I'll tell you halacha. The Gemara says, Ali Potter. You're not to Ali Potter that is Dvar halacha. Why? Says the Gemara, Shemitoich kach zochreyu. By doing this, he will remember him. That's what I tell you.
You're gonna remember, you're gonna remember the good aspects of that last conversation.
And if you have a conversation about the weather,
You're gonna, 2 days later, you're gonna forget.
you have a conversation about politics,
You're gonna leave angry.
okay. So you need Torah.
Don't leave mad to sleep.
So there is there's a joke. Someone says, you don't. The Gemara said a person should not take leave of his friend except for the Dvar halacha. So there's a joke that says, if you want to get rid of your friend, the only way, just say Dvar halacha if not coming back. I'm not interested in hearing your halachas. But anyway, the question is, why halacha? There is many areas in Torah which might be interested. I will tell you an insight, I will tell you a word, tell you a story. There is an emphasis over here on the word halacha. But let's continue the Gemara, one more piece to it. The Gemara provides an example to that ruling. What's the example? Listen to the example. Says the Gemara, like in the case of Rav Kahana, Meir Kahana's great-great-grandfather. In the case of Rav Kahana, who escorted Rav Shimi Barashi. He escorted them from a place called Pum Nahara, not sure what this is, until Beit Tzinata in Babylonia. Go on the map, Google Maps, try to find where is Pum Nahara and where is Beit Tzinata, and you're gonna find out exactly from where to where Rav Kahana was escorting Rav Shimi. When they arrived there, in the place called Beit Tzinata, Rav Kahana said to him, meaning to Rav Shimi, Master, is that true what people say that these Babylonian palm trees have existed from the time of Adam Arishon, the first man, until now? Is that true? He's asking him. To which Rav Shimi responded, oh, you know what he says? He just reminded me of a statement I heard from Rabbi Yossi Bar Hanania. What did Yossi Bar Hanania say? Yossi Bar Hanania quoted a verse in the book of Jeremiah, chapter 2. The verse says that God took the Jewish people out of Egypt and he walked them through Be'eretz asher lo avar ba'ish velo yashav adam sham. He walked them through to a land who could anyone have that lo avar shamish, a land which no person passed by it and where no man settled. Adam means man. So Rabbi Yossi said, I don't understand the verse. Since no person had passed through the land. Then how could anyone settle there? In other words, the verse shouldn't have to say a land that no one passed and no one settled. Passed. So what is the double repetition of the verse in Jeremiah describing the Jewish people going to a desert which no one ever passed and no Adam ever settled? The word that uses is lo yasham Adam sham. Adam can be translated as a man. So what is Adam? So listen to what he said. Listen to what he says. So he said the verse means as follows. That's what reminded me now that my teacher Rabbi Yossi taught us. Any land that Adam, the first man, decreed for settlement was subsequently settled. And any land that Adam, the first man, did not decree for settlement was not settled. In other words, what it tells them is, you wonder, is those trees from the times of Adam? And I answer you, yes. The fact that they are there and it's settled by a community, that means that Adam decreed that there should be a settlement. And that's why people call it the trees, the palm trees from Adam's days. From Adam's days means that it was there from the time when Adam had in mind. This part of the world should have trees, should have a community. This part of the world should have a community. And some parts are not going to ever be settled. Right? Sometimes you fly by or you drive by areas, you see empty land, and you wonder, is this going to be settled to some point? Like, why everybody's squeezing in the same, cubits of Bellevue, Redmond? Come on, there's so many mountains. The answer is, Adam never decreed they should be settled. There's areas which meant to have a population, and areas which are not meant to have a population. Now, what's interesting about this Gemara? What's interesting about this Gemara is, you just told me that the way to say goodbye is by saying a Tvar Halacha. And then you bring me a story of rabbis who said goodbye. Was there any halacha here? Similarly, there was just a story. This guy is telling him what about the trees, and this guy is telling them the parents of Adam decreed, and that's how the verse is being understood. What's this conversation all about? So the truth is, without getting into it now into details, there are great insight by commentaries which find halachic terminations based on the fact that it comes from Adam's times. One of the Rebbe once mentioned actually, in regard to the lulav, palm tree. A lulav comes from a palm tree. The Rebbe says sometimes there are places which are being worshipped by Gentiles. And then you can't use the lulav from such a tree which was worshipped. Now you come to a place which was planted by Adam's decree, that should be a place of tree. That is actually an allowance to use that palm tree for lulav. Because when Adam was there was no idol worship yet. Idol worship came many years after Adam. It was Enosh, right? Adam's grandson, who the whole story of idol worship began, as the Rambam describes. So if you know that this tree comes from the times of Adam, then you know it's kosher. It was before idol worship came to the world. Anyway, this is just discussions. Some actually say that no, halacha doesn't necessarily mean halacha. Every aspect of Torah is called halacha. You can have stories of the Talmud, and they also fall into the category of halacha. But in Chassidut, the emphasis is halacha. They are specifically mentioning in the Talmud of halacha. Why halacha? So the way it's being explained by the Rebbe, and by the is as follows. Listen to that. What does the Talmud? Al yipoter od shall not take leave of his friend except amid the discussion of a matter of Allah. When the Talmud says a person shall not take leave of his friend, what does it mean to tell you? Are we allowed to say goodbye to each other? No. Talmud says don't take leave. You have an allowance. There's a conditional allowance. What's the conditional allowance? There's a license. There's a heter, which they call. What's the heter? It makes the separation kosher. But with other dvar halacha, you're not allowed to say goodbye. So why are we saying goodbye? Why do we leave? Why do we leave each other? Why are we the only ones here in the whole world, which are in elsewhere, in many other places? What makes the leave kosher? What makes travel kosher? The answer is, we are sent by God. We have a mission, right? Shlichus. Every single Jew is a shliach, an emissary by God to elevate a certain part of the world. And if you end up somewhere in the world, that means that Mi'ashem mitzadei gever kononu, God had established your fate to travel to the place that you are, because there is where you belong, to utilize your life and make this place a home for Hashem. That's your mission. That's your shlichus. But the only reason that we are not together is because of shlichus. But the only problem is, what's going to help me that you're on a mission? We're not meant to be separated. What's going to keep us together? Comes the Gemara and tells us, you know what's going to keep you together? Torah. Torah has a quality that it's not threatened by separation. Why is Torah not threatened by separation? Because Torah is beyond the world. Torah is not limited in the boundaries of creation. Torah transcends the world. Matter of fact, we can sit today and study about temple. You can study about areas of knowledge which is nothing to do, and it's even impossible to do in having our personal life. And it's still studying Torah, because Torah is not about a particular practical experience. Torah is about the wisdom of God relating to every aspect of creation. But Torah is not limited to creation, right? That's what Torah is. That's why it's always important to study Torah. You are connecting to the mind and wisdom of God. And God is not limited. Hashem is not limited. Hashem is above everything. So when I want to stay together with you and you want to keep it alive, what is the only everlasting quality that we have which can fly through countries, not limit itself to any boundaries, to any borders, to any walls, to any passports, to any situations? What is that? Hashem's Torah. So that's obviously what's going to keep us united. If we share the same Torah and we share a message of Torah, we're going to stay together.
But the reality is, in life, in shuls, out of shuls, wherever, Jews just don't do that.
What do you mean?
I mean, when people leave, they say goodbye, and I can't remember a conversation. At least,
maybe you didn't leave. Say goodbye to me, and I will tell you Advar Allah. I don't want you to leave.
Well, you get stuck to continue on.
That's to continue, that's to be protected by the mitzvah. But the idea of what the Rebbe says, no. There is a special emphasis in halacha. Why halacha? Because in Torah there's many opinions, right? The wisdom of Torah, by definition, means a give and take. This one says like this. Abaya says like this. Comes Rabbi and asks. Comes Rav Ashi and answers. There's a give and take. There is one area in Torah where there is no give and take. It's a ruling. This is the halacha. You do it, and there is no discussion. This is the final ruling. You can talk about etrog from today to tomorrow, and there is big discussions in the Talmud in Tractate Sukkah about an etrog. Maybe this etrog should be kosher, maybe that etrog should be kosher. What happens if this happens? Then comes the Shulchan Aruch and tells you this is the bottom line. Halacha, there's no argument. In halacha, there is no argument. If there is no argument in halacha, then it represents what? The world of unity. And that's the part of Torah which is going to keep you united with your fellow who wants you to take leave from it. You shared an insight which has no challenge. This is the ruling. Could be rulings by different authorities. You're going to say Rabbi Yosef Karo's ruling, and I'm going to say the Rambam's ruling. And these two might pose a challenge between them, but in each community, whoever they follow, that's their ruling. And the ruling represents the final verdict said by God. This is what you should do. And this unites us. This unites us. So basically, what happens in the story of the trees, and Adam said yes, and this guy said no, it goes deeper than that. The question was, between them, why are we saying goodbye? What lets us leave? What's the heter? What's the permission for us to say goodbye? We are coming here. I escorted you from one place to another place in Bavel, and now I'm saying goodbye. Why are we saying goodbye? What allows us to be separated? So he tells them what allows us to be separated because God created the world. And there is this area of the world which has to be cultivated because Adam decreed it to be a cultivated place, which in the world of spirituality, it means in the areas that we're going to have to do mitzvot, positive mitzvahs, to bring godliness into the world. And then there is areas which are meant to be uncultivated, which represents negative commandments, abstaining from certain things. But this is the story of why we all traveling. There was a question about traveling. Why are you traveling? Why are you going elsewhere? Who gave you the right? The Torah says, Ali poter odom b'chaveroi. A person should not say goodbye to his friend. He cannot take leave. So why are you traveling? The answer is I'm traveling because there's a world that we need to travel to. Well, I'm traveling. Adam gave us a world in the orders of God, which has to be cultivated and developed by settling in some places, but not settling. It's all part of the job, right? Not everything has to be done. Sometimes they're doing it by abstaining from. But the entire world is being utilized for the service of God. So therefore, we have to travel. What is going to keep us together once we travel? And we say goodbye is Torah. Which part of Torah? Dvar Halacha. And why do we need the Dvar Halacha? Because we cannot be separated. That's what the story of Shmini Atzeres is telling us. Koshe olai pridaschem. It's hard for me seeing you leave, God says. I get anxiety. Not about my separation from you. I'm not separating from you. You're not separating from me. A Jew, like the Alter Rebbe once says, Niter will und niter can. That abgerissen von Eberstein. A Jew, neither does he want, nor is he able to separate himself from God. He can't say goodbye. But between each other, it's a different story. And we need something to keep us together. We need that unifying force. This is Torah. This is halacha. This is not just stories. This is literally this is the halacha, the ruling, the wisdom of God, which is beyond. This is what you do. This is what's going to keep us together. That's why it's so important to learn halacha. That's why we learn Rambam. You learn halacha because halacha is called Dvar Hashem. This is the word of God. Palamayish. You understand? This is the word of Hashem. Somebody once said there were two rabbis who were meeting, two great rabbis before the war, won many books. His name was Rabbi Yosef Engel. He was a great giant. And Galicia, Reb Meir Arik, I don't remember which city he was, but he was in Galicia. Also a tremendous giant in Torah. And they met together and came to take leave. So Rabbi Yosef Engel, Reb Meir Arik tells Rabbi Yosef Engel, no, leave, because it says, Ali pater adam chaviro, you shouldn't take leave unless there's a dvar halacha. Now the Gemara says that the reason why you're going to leave the halacha, that's how you're going to remember it. So there's an insight which is being shared by many, that the idea is that has to be, the separation should be in the midst of a halachic discussion. Meaning, the best thing would be if I tell you a question. And if I tell you the question, you're going to think about it. Where am I going to get the answer? So you travel and then you keep on remembering me. So he told him, tell me a question so I should be able to remember you. So he told him, I'll tell you a question. You know what the question is? Kasher olai predaschem. The question is, kasher means hard and kasher means a question. The hardness of separation, that's what bothers me more than anything. Think about it. That's how they say goodbye. Have a wonderful good night, everyone. Laila Tov. We will see you again. Don't be separated. Stay together. Thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay.
So if you saw us stuck on the shop, no, man. Stuck on the beach. Aye, so yeah. Yeah, that's a bet. When they drop you off to the bingo spot,
Oh, I have a bet.
I'll be there. Aye, stood there. Sorry. Wanna watch you? Thanks. 280 through the scheme as they offer bloody new. 20 pence for the driver, you're up to I'm just driving, but it doesn't take a silly bastard for the ride. I'm only kidding. I'm slipping my quid or something. Here we go. Go on. Oh, wait. Give me the this. No, there you go. Come on. Some man, Derek. I don't see you in the clans when we'll get you a bite, eh? I'll maybe take you up in that.
Aye, every Tuesday for I don't know, 8 weeks or so. Aye, that's great, ideal. Smashing. Okay, thank you. Oh, it's the two Ronnies.
Oh, the two Ronnies.
Well, then shut up, you prick, for me.
Man, shut up, you prick, for him.
Hello, Winston. Oh, dear. Should used to not be sitting down, eh? I'm just saying.
Shut up, we heard you. What are you saying?
I'm just talking to the two old pensioners that just get out the dial of us.
Not all of it. If we get a bloody taxi,
You've got a taxi with your dignity intact. The dial of us, that's for decrepit old dafties. Oh, it is, nay. That's plenty.
Winston's right, Victor. You look at the faces on that bus. There's nothing going at the rent.
Oh, why don't you die with us? Why don't you die with us?
Think about the dive.
See, the boss was in. What boss? Harvey Gallagher. Bobby would spend a week chasing his tail looking for somebody that doesn't even exist. Besides, it's hardly the crime of the century, is it? A couple of free drinks for a couple of friends.
Now let 'em go. Walk out the door. Just never out loud. There's just no love anymore. And you know what looks like an open fire.
What are you stopping? I don't know. Oh no.